Many of you might have friends or family members who become widowed, who lose the person they loved. And it's hard sometimes to know how to help them. I think many people around us feel helpless, and so rather than do something, they do nothing. But how can you really help them? I'm going to tell you some things I wrote down for somebody local because they asked me, how do you help a young widow? I was 32 when I was widowed. So I'm going to share those. I wrote them down, so I'm going to read them, so just bear with me. But as a young widow, I have worked to connect with widows online, and I've talked with a lot of widows. And so this is from my perspective and my lived experience. And there might be things you can add. So if you think there are things to add, please do. Here's what I would say first. At first, meals were really helpful to me. Someone bringing in meals that I didn't have to think about or didn't have to cook. People even made me freezer meals, and I just stuck them in, and I could warm them up whenever I needed to for me and my kid. Because we don't know when we'll be hungry, and sometimes we aren't eating well. And but if it's there and available, it's going to be easier for us to remember to take care of us. The crockpot meals, freezer meals, those are all very helpful. I had people bring them in for weeks, and it seemed small probably for them, but it was huge for me, and it took a weight off my mind. People offering me practical help, mowing lawns, scraping sidewalks, taking the cans to the curb on trash day, helping with the dishes, the laundry, opening mail, filing paperwork, chores my husband would do, like fix-it things, handiwork. Offering to do those for a young widow was very helpful. Also, people will come to us and ask us what we need to do or what they can help with, and we just don't simply know because we haven't got to that point of needing something just yet, or we're so overwhelmed by grief that we don't know what to do. And so many people want to help early on, but we just don't know. So I had to start writing down things. I got a notebook, and when it came up, I wrote it down, even if it was simple, so that if somebody stopped by or wanted to help, that I was like, these are the things I need help with. If you have kids, take your kids to play with their kids. If you're going to the store, offer to pick her up and take her with you. Funds of any type are helpful as you've got a loss of income. Outside of that, don't just say hi or that I'll be there or call me if you'll need me. Those are well-meaning. But I promise you, most who are grieving won't reach out and be like, I need you right now. We're too caught up in the grief and too overwhelmed by what's going on to reach out and say, I need you. And many widows feel lied to by well-meaning people who say they're going to be there but do nothing. Many feel abandoned and do get abandoned by their friends and family after loss. And you would be like, that never happens, but that happens all the time. Their supports completely fall away. And this grief is not a short-term fix. Getting over the loss of your spouse or partner, which you could never do, is not a short-term fix. What you can do is hold space for them and their grief. You can listen. You can sit. Remember, everything in the griever's life is going to change. From the way she eats to the daily sports she has, from how she sleeps, her finances, how she sees the world, how she sees herself in the world, her place in the world, her relationships with her friends and family. She changes. You can't go through grief and not be changed by that. And she's thrown into a new life she didn't ask for and doesn't want to be in, and didn't expect often. I mean, many people are going to have to help her navigate this new unfamiliar life. And I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to because it happens too often, is don't judge her. We listen and we don't judge. She will have to make choices from a place of a grieving heart. They won't be your choices, but that's okay. And when I was first widowed, I felt like I was living in a glass house. That first year, everyone judging me on how I was doing and the choices I was making, good or bad. There's no right way to do this. There's no magic guide or timeline on how to handle any of it. And so her choices are her choices, the best that she's making under the circumstances. Support and check-in are so important, and they're needed long after the funeral and long after all of the dust has settled from the funeral, for 6 months to a year. There's this griever's fog, this widow's brain that sets in, making you forgetful and making you just kind of spacey. It's a protection in your body. It's a chemical reaction in your body that's meant to protect your brain from feeling all the pain at once, but it can be horrible to deal with. So if they seem forgetful or not remember things, it's because of that. And it's hard to navigate. So we just like feel like crazy in our thoughts, and it's really just our body trying to protect us. Now, just know that the grief will come in waves. The grief will come and go. At first, it's going to be there all the time, and then it will be there daily, and then we will feel it, but it won't be as intense. It comes in waves. We feel it, and we don't get to, there's a lot of things that trigger grief, and we don't get to choose what those are. And so expect that she'll still need help with her grief years down the line, 1, 2, 5 years. She's still going to miss them. She's still going to be sad. Too many people expect you to be over it, to get over it, and we're told to get over it, but we simply can't get over a loss that impactful. You don't get over a loss. You can move forward. You can carry the grief with you, but the fact is, they're always going to be gone from us. They're always going to be dead. We can never bring them back, and so their impact is going to be felt forever. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my late husband or spouse. I think another important thing is that because a lot of people haven't been through as intense losses as this, the type of grief that they're going through, they try to compare their grief to yours. Like, I know exactly how you're feeling. I went through a divorce, or my grandma died, or my cat died. And that might be the most intense grief that they've felt, but it's not the same. And no matter what you've been through, when you compare your loss to them, to theirs, it's not going to be well received, and it's not going to feel like you're supporting them. And you truly can't understand the depth of loss that grief can carry when you lose your spouse, unless you've been there, unless you've been a widow before. So also just know at an appropriate time, they may need grief counseling or grief groups and grief support. There just may not be support that you can offer them professionally, and you just may need to help them or guide them in connecting to a community that can be healing to them and their family. Another important thing is that when our spouse dies, we become the memory keeper. Sometimes I think we're afraid that others might forget them, and because people stop talking about them, they don't bring them up to us because they don't want to trigger us. But we want to say their name. We want to talk about them. We want others to tell us stories about our loved one. Please write them down. Please send them to us. Please share pictures and stories. Talk about them. And at the very least, be willing to listen when they want to talk about them. I appreciated it when people shared stories about my husband to me, because many people knew him a lot longer than me. We weren't married very long when he passed away. And so when they share stories from when they were little, or share stories of their friendships, the things they did together, I treasured those moments, and I love talking about him. And on a special note, holidays and birthdays can be grief triggers and filled with a lot of anticipatory grief, like grief leading up to it. And they're having a year of first without them, so check in on them, especially on those hard days. And I could go on and on about how you might support widows and widowers, but this is my perspective as I lived it. And please try better to help those who are grieving. If you've made it through this, they need your support. They need your love. They need your kindness. They need your patience. They just need you. Please don't be another loss in their grief journey by falling away and not showing up for your friend or family who's grieving.